One Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen Line, 641-793-0191.
Coming up next after the news, Hour 1 of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The UK government has suspended negotiations with Israel for a new free trade agreement over what British Foreign Secretary David Lammy called the indefensible and cruel blockade of aid into Gaza and Israel's expanded military operations. Speaking to Parliament on Tuesday, David Lammy said that the conflict had entered a dark new phase, with the humanitarian catastrophe intensifying in Gaza. The announcement follows a joint statement by the leaders of the UK, France and Canada condemning the Israeli government's actions in Gaza, which was met with anger by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. David Lammy also announced that the Israeli ambassador in London was being summoned to convey the demand to end the renewed Israeli military actions and the end to the blockade of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Despite the glimmer of hope from January's ceasefire, the suffering from this conflict has worsened. But January showed another path was possible. We urge Netanyahu's government to choose this path. The world is judging. History will judge them. Blocking aid, expanding the war, dismissing the concerns of your friends and partners, this is indefensible, and it must stop.
The first flight carrying migrants who've chosen to self-deport has left the United States for Central America. The Department of Homeland Security has offered $1,000 and a free flight for anyone wanting to leave. Nick Harper in Washington has the details.
First plane load of people left Houston, Texas, flying 64 citizens to Colombia and Honduras. It's all part of a new Trump administration initiative, offering travel assistance to illegal migrants who want to self-deport. Authorities in Honduras say at least 4 of the children on board were born in the US, making them American citizens. The Department of Homeland Security says the scheme will help to reduce deportation costs, which usually average more than $17,000 per person. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to meet his US counterpart Donald Trump on Wednesday, with relations between the two allies at their lowest point in decades. Donald Trump is alleging, without proof, that white South African farmers are victims of a genocide and that the state is seizing their land. The US has expelled the South African ambassador and ended all aid to the country. Some advisers fear President Ramaphosa risks a Volodymyr Zelensky-style dressing down in the Oval Office. But Mr. Ramaphosa, a seasoned political negotiator, says the meeting will give him a chance to set the record straight and to show that the two golf-playing tycoons have more in common than is thought. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, with more today on the future of the war in Ukraine after President Trump's latest efforts to broker a ceasefire and his conversation on Monday with Russian President Vladimir Putin. We heard yesterday from Kurt Volker, President Trump's former special representative to Ukraine, about Kyiv's efforts to try and drive a wedge between the White House and the Kremlin. Today, Ambassador Volker on what he thinks a peace agreement should not look like. The US, he says, cannot simply accept all of Putin's demands.
I don't think Putin will ever agree to a reasonable settlement. So when I say it's got to be fair and just, it means that we don't accept Putin's outrageous demands, his demands that he gets to annex Ukrainian territory. Ukraine gives up even more. Ukraine is demilitarized. Ukraine has a change of government to suit Putin. Ukraine is permanently neutral. None of those things should happen. So what we end up with is a ceasefire and a standoff, a ceasefire and a long-term disagreement.
But it remains unclear whether Vladimir Putin wants to avoid that eventuality, and the US has already effectively negotiated away many of those things in earlier conversations with the Russians and in the draft plan for a ceasefire that both Moscow and Kiev have received from the White House. European leaders who travelled to Kiev only 10 days ago to express solidarity with President Zelensky are expected to continue pushing for a very different outcome. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. The UK government has suspended negotiations with Israel for a new free trade agreement over what British Foreign Secretary David Lammy called the indefensible and cruel blockade of aid into Gaza. The first flight carrying migrants who've chosen to self-deport has left the US for Central America. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to meet his US counterpart Donald Trump on Wednesday. And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
Everyone in a bustling Chinese parade is attempting to elude pursuers. Newly discovered cave paintings suggest early man was battling a lot of inner demons, and a xylophonist is shredding it. This Tuesday, FBI officials disclosed details of a disturbing al-Qaeda plot to just kick back, relax, and savor the inevitable collapse of the United States. Intelligence agencies confirmed the massive coordinated plan involves terrorist cells across the globe, training specifically to take a load off and unwind as America's political infighting, class divides, moral indolence, and environmental self-destruction gradually tear the nation apart.
Our righteous warriors will devote our time to relaxing and really soaking in the infidels' self-destruction. America's cities will be reduced to ruins. The economy will come to a standstill. And we, the blessed of Islam, will kick back, put our feet up, and enjoy the show. It's going to be great.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. That's the phone number for you to call to bring up whatever is on your mind. That number is 603-283-6160. And it's Free Talk Live, so you can bring up whatever is on your mind. And right now I need to log into that in order to do it. I think I might be able to just answer this call. So with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And the most professional radio co-host, Richie Rich.
Hey. Anyways.
That wasn't a shot at you. That was a shot at the three knuckleheads on last night.
Oh, that's mean. Why were
they started?
They weren't being professional?
No, they said that the Free Talk Live doesn't have any professional hosts.
Oh, well, that's definitely what Penguin was saying, and I thought that was almost kind of mean, and I did think of you, literally.
Appreciate that.
Like, Colin asked me who's on the show tonight, and I said Richie Rich, and he's like, oh, is that going to be okay, just you two? And I was like, yeah, Richie was just like the easiest person to do the show with if I had to be alone with someone.
The most professional.
So, we do have a caller on the line. Let's just go right to the unscreened callers. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, it's Ridley.
Hey, Ridley. What's on your mind, Dave Ridley?
So, have you guys heard about this? There's an article in the Union Leader. Apparently, a lady is suing. She's suing the Kearsarge School Board because they refused to let her continue. I guess they silenced her and threatened to call police on her based on her comments. I guess must have been during public comment.
I saw the headline. Is this this isn't the state rep that was silenced, is it?
I don't know if she's a state rep or not. Her name is Beth. It looks like Scar or Scare.
No, she's not a state
rep.
rep.
I'm not sure exactly how she pronounced it. Middle-aged lady. Well, she looks middle-aged to me, but since I'm getting old, I guess maybe I should say old. But I guess she filed it looks like a federal lawsuit. She said a claim that she was, quote, silenced and threatened with police intervention, unquote, after referring to a transgender athlete on a girls' soccer team as a tall boy, unquote.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Oh, well, it's not currently in vogue.
Depends what state you live in.
I guess.
If you live in a blue state, that's a girl. If you live in a red state, that's a boy.
I don't know. I kind of tend to think that it's school, so they shouldn't be, forcing something on an older woman, like calling somebody that to her is a boy, a girl, like forcing her to do that just to have a conversation when it's pertinent, especially.
Yep.
I bet the kid wasn't in the school.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I bet the kid wasn't in the room at this.
At the hearing? No, it's a. Why would they be? It's one of those there. Town hall hearings.
Because a lot of times people like to claim, oh, that's bullying or something, but that can't be bullying.
Yeah. I guess it's attorneys from this thing called the Institute for Free Speech, which I have not heard of, but glad it exists, I guess. And I just have this first part of the article here. I had to take a screenshot of it. I couldn't make a normal copy of it, so I don't know all the other details.
And this happened where?
They call it, quote, New London-based Kearsarge School Board meeting.
So it's New London, New Hampshire, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called Kearsarge School. I've been hearing so much about it because they had a trans, boy to girl kid playing on the soccer teams, maybe it was, so they keep getting in the news and stuff like that. Beth also is the one who the town of Nashua allowed there to be this thing where any resident of Nashua could choose the next flag that went up. It was like every month there'd be a flag.
Okay.
And they had their Nashua maybe or their New Hampshire flag, but they were letting people put up flags, and somebody put up the pride flag. So that was an example of something that went up. But she put the Pine Tree Riot flag.
Okay.
Or requested it or whatever. And they denied it and gave her the reasoning that it was divisive or something like that. So people went out there, including me and Zephin, who's also on the show.
Okay.
It hasn't been in a while. And we flew Pine Tree Riot flags and got the attention of, oh man, I forget what they're called. A free speech advocacy group. And I'm pretty sure Beth won her case. I just don't remember now if she won. But either way.
I am generally a trans ally on most things, excluding sports.
Mm-hmm.
There's, in my opinion, women's sports exists primarily because women can't compete at the same level as men in most sports.
Yeah, I just don't care about sports so hard that I literally didn't care at all. But one thing about it is that women started getting actually injured. There's a girl that was actually harmed, beyond repair, paralyzed.
Yeah, but that happens to guys in guy sports.
Yeah,
right?
but
that's,
that doesn't
injuries.
Normally happen to girls in volleyball because someone spiked a volleyball.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But you could have a strong girl, right? Especially at lower levels, right? For a long time, my niece was a giant compared to her peers, and she played volleyball, and she had to play in the age group that she was in, and she was literally a foot taller and probably 50 pounds heavier than everybody else on the court, and just dominated, at the time. So, and female, right?
Yeah,
not
but
trans
did she
at
injure
all.
anybody?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I
would love to
videos.
know, how often that happens.
But she was strong enough where at that age group, she could have injured people as a female, attacking other females just because of the size differential at the time. Obviously, hormones and age caught up, and she's no longer the giant.
I mean, if she
compared to her
played and
peers.
she didn't injure people, I don't know if I just want to accept that as truth,
Okay. I'm just saying that you can have size differentials in sports and still be the same gender.
It's not about height or something. It's about your body is capable of firing the ball harder and faster.
Yes, and what I'm saying at age 12 and age 10 or whatever, age 10 to 12, she was more capable than the other 10 to 12-year-olds because of her physicals. No, I guarantee it. I promise you.
But you're not saying that you remember she actually paralyzed someone.
She didn't I know she didn't paralyze anybody.
That's why I just don't know if that's really like you can't use that one, you know?
Well, what I'm saying is it had nothing to do with gender, right? She was just bigger. And so if you're just bigger and stronger, then the potential exists whether or not it actually comes to fruition, right? Like there was it was some lacrosse thing or someone got hit with like a lacrosse ball in the back of the head and died at age 16 or whatever. And I forget if it was a male or female, right? But the injuries happen in sports, and that's part of the deal. So I don't
think that if my daughter got paralyzed from a boy spiking a thing, I would just agree like, it could have happened exactly the same if Cindy hit her with a spike. I just don't think I'd agree.
Yeah, but if Cindy was bigger and stronger than all the other females,
then there might actually be a problem there too. Like my sister's boyfriend, he's so tall. He's like, I guess he's Blackfoot native. Maybe that's why he's tall. Maybe he's not that, but he's super tall. And he said that when he was in middle school, they didn't let him play on the football team because he was too much bigger than the other kids. The other boys, not the other, So if a boy hurt another boy because he was just that much taller in that school, they probably would have been able to do something about it,
Maybe. But if they're playing another school, you'd want that kid on your team.
Yeah, but not if he was actually literally injuring people.
Again, there's, if people are equal, they're not free. And if they're free, they're not equal. You can't discriminate just based on size and strength.
No, you absolutely can. That's my whole point. You should be able to discriminate based on this person is dangerously large. Like my sister's boyfriend, it's not like he's like, I am just like torn up to this day about it, Probably just went and did like other things like with his grandpa or whatever.
Well,
there are other things to do other than sports, trust me.
When it comes to sports, I say that's a weak position then. Because if you're big enough and strong enough to dominate, you should.
But there's a difference between just like doing well and harming people.
Well, it depends if it's a contact sport, man. Like doing well in football is harming people. Like you hit people pretty darn hard, right?
Yeah, but there's an amount of harm that like
hockey.
You basically sign up for that, and there's an amount of harm that's like being paralyzed. That doesn't happen common enough that people are like, that just happens during football. Everybody gets paralyzed during football.
Everyone doesn't get paralyzed, but people do get paralyzed playing football. That is not an uncommon thing.
I don't know that it's common enough that it's exactly the same if a 6-foot-tall boy hits you and you get paralyzed. It's just like, that happened last week. Cindy did that to Jennifer.
Again, not a weekly event, but there's enough paralysis in football where it is an issue.
Now we're talking about something that's like we need stats in front of us. You're definitely pulling an Aria where Aria is like, well, whatever I say is probably statistically correct, and whatever you say is probably not. Like neither of us have stats in front of us, but I've never met someone who's been like, anyone in my family has been paralyzed playing girl-on-girl volleyball, but yet there is this girl 2 years ago got paralyzed because a boy spiked a ball and hit her in the head so hard she's knocked out on the ground. I said knocked up on the ground. Knocked out on the ground, and now she's paralyzed for life. Right. And it's just like, I don't think that would have happened if that boy wasn't playing volleyball with girls.
That might be true, but that you can't discriminate against other females.
I think I absolutely can and would if I owned a sports team, but the thing is...
You would stop a dominant female volleyball player from playing just because she's so much better than the rest?
No, not because she's so much better, but because she was so much bigger, especially if it was an age thing. Like the 12-year-olds who most of them have, maybe 12 isn't the right age, but like the 11-year-olds, maybe most of them haven't hit puberty, and maybe one girl just like hit it super early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind saying, that's going to be an unsafe situation for 90% of my people, but not this one. Like, sorry, you just don't get to play sports. It's not the end of the freaking world. Go do ballet, I
mean, if you were running the sports organization, that's fine, but I think most sports organizations would want that girl to play.
Well.
And dominate.
I have an actual story of it happening the opposite way, and you are just saying you think somebody would want it that way. I don't think most of the parents would want it that way.
But they have the option to take their kid out. It works both ways.
Yeah,
if you're not good enough to compete, then you're the one who should go do something else.
Well, they could.
Not
it's not because they're not good enough.
Player.
It's because most people are expected to be around the same age at the same time. But if somebody gets
people
a
are around the
huge
same age at the same time.
Growth spurt early, that's kind of on, like, sorry, the whole world doesn't revolve around you. And besides, we're not even talking about that. We're talking about a boy wanting to play in high school sports against girls. At that age, boys catch up and then exceed the size of girls.
And one of the first things I said was excluding, I'm an ally excluding sports because I don't want to see it either. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's because of the injuries necessarily, because again, you can have a dominant female who's bigger, stronger, faster than the rest, who's just better than the average player, and you shouldn't discriminate against them and prevent them from excelling at their sport because nobody else is as good. You're handicapping the best people.
Even remotely, like happens often. The thing I was talking about was like somebody who hit puberty or just a growth spurt way before everybody else. But as far as high school,
well, if you want an example, then Caster Semenya, right? The track star. She's like born female, all female, like completely female. Mm-hmm. Has a naturally higher testosterone, so she's bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody else on the track. Mm-hmm. And they handicap her by saying, "Well, you have to take testosterone reducers." They have to anti-drug her. No, it's not.
Playing a game,
because she's naturally better.
I'm not playing a
game. She's
If
done nothing to enhance herself. She's just better. They go like, well, you're too good.
She's literally on a drug, whether it's endogenous or not. She's literally on a drug.
We have to chemically handicap you so that other people have a chance. And I think in sports, that's nonsense.
How can they even prove that she's not putting on topical testosterone?
Well, now you're speculating because
no, I'm saying how can she prove to her people that like these are my results and it's not normal? Because the thing is like when you get your hormones tested, your doctor's going to tell you like, oh yeah, there's no way you're getting that done endogenously, like in your own body, naturally, your organs.
I'm going to assume that the doctors have done all the work, and that's the conclusion that they came to, because that's all the reports that came out.
If there's no way to know that, then I definitely don't blame them. If there's no way to know that, like
if they can find synthetics in everybody else. If she was running on synthetics, they would find it in her.
The thing is, it's not like, oh, this testosterone is natural. This testosterone, we tested it, and it's not natural. It's the levels. Because basically, when you take a hormone, just shows up in your bloodstream, shows up in your
right, and everyone has come to the agreement on the conclusion based on the test that they did run. That she has naturally higher levels. And then, in order to compete with the women,
and then everybody's going to just start doing endogenous or exogenous testosterone and being like, "Oh, it's just natural, bro."
No, because they'll test for it and they'll find that it's not.
No, that's what you don't understand. The thing is, my question is there actually like some kind of way for them to know that there's not? Because I don't see how everybody could just start doing it.
And my answer to you was, I don't know, but I trust every single doctor that has run a test. And they all agree and came to the conclusion that she's just naturally better.
I'm sorry that there's just some people that probably can't do contact sports. There's some people that are way too small to do it. Are we going to be like, no, you can't? That's natural. Bonnie should be able to play contact sports with all these behemoth women.
That's my point.
I've never felt like
Bonnie shouldn't play.
No, it's not your point. Your point is that if something's natural in somebody, then they should just be allowed to play with everybody else, even if it puts everybody else at an advantage. At a disadvantage.
Yes, because it's natural.
Yeah, and if
you're
totally
naturally
natural
weaker,
for me to be like, I was like 85 pounds in high school.
Yes.
So I should just be like, well, since it's natural, I play anyway. Like,
you can try out and you will lose because you don't have it in you to win.
But I'm just saying it's
and
what
we shouldn't do. We
shouldn't be artificially making it to where normal people can't, on average, play.
No, average people don't play. Sports are for the elite athlete. If you're 85 pounds, you don't get to play. You're the one who goes to take ballet.
That's so out of range that they had to.
No, you go to tryouts. Yes, but you go to tryouts and you don't get picked because you're not good enough.
No,
right? What you don't do.
They should also be allowed to not pick somebody because they're too quote unquote good.
They should be. You're right, but it's dumb because that's not how sports works.
So all you're arguing about right now is like whether or not it's dumb, but I'm talking about like should it be allowed? Like,
and I'm saying yes,
absolutely be allowed for people to be discriminated against. And you're just saying, well, that's dumb.
Yes.
All right. Then.
Because when it comes to sports, you want the best, and what we shouldn't do is handicap the best because the average person isn't good enough to compete with them.
The thing about it is, if it came to a point of being either completely unfair or endangering
it is completely
the other
unfair.
People, endangering the other people, like in an irrational amount of way. Like everybody understands there's like a risk at playing a sport, let's say like football. Well, some people are like, I will never let my kid play football because everybody knows there's a risk. But if this takes it way out of bounds from even that, then the people who are running this thing have kind of in my opinion, a responsibility to keep somebody out who's going to legitimately like squish all the other people.
And again, we're going to disagree because I don't think.
But your thing is just saying that's stupid, not saying that it's like
because
right
again,
or wrong or anything.
Because you're taking the best person out because they're so much better than the rest.
Yeah, but you're just saying the best. Just because somebody's big doesn't necessarily mean they're the best.
Well, then let them play.
Have you ever tried to move a couch to somebody who's just like a stupid?
If they're not the best, let them play. If they're not the best, let them play regardless of their size. Running into the walls,
like I'm strong. I can move a couch. Running into the walls, breaking holes in the walls. Like they're probably not necessarily the best just because they're bigger, but they could harm somebody more easily.
And if they're not good enough to play, then that's fine. But I'm saying that there's an advantage to being bigger, stronger, and faster than your peers, and you shouldn't be handicapped because of that, especially in sports.
I just think, like, you're calling it be handicapped, and I'm saying
it's a handicap.
Just not be allowed to play. And it's just like, oh, well, like, sorry, you can't play. There's probably kids that have, like, you know, been not expelled, but, like, failed, like, 3 grades.
Yes. They're not smart enough. You don't put them in charge.
Okay, you don't have to be smart to play football.
Yeah.
You don't have to be smart to play absolutely any sport, basically.
Right. And so you should still let them play football.
Oh, yeah. Pretty sure that most 20-year-olds are just going to be, like, way too big for, you know, like, the average, like, football players.
But are you talking about like are you talking about like an elementary school league?
No, some of them are still in school.
Okay, then let them play.
I don't think they should be allowed to play.
If they're bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else, that's an advantage, and you don't handicap advantages.
I think that like people who were in high school are too young and dumb, and they think that like football, I'm gonna be in the NFL one day, and they're taking this risk that could literally for the rest of their lives kill them, or not kill. Well, it could kill them, but for the rest of their lives harm them.
It could.
And it's irresponsible for the adults in the room to be like, we want our school team to win. Oh my god, you're making me flash back to like Texas, like the worst.
Yeah, Texas is good, but my high school for a long time was like number 2 in the nation for football. And I was the water boy because I wasn't good enough or big enough or strong enough or fast enough to play.
That's fine. And that's what I'm in agreement with the giants, 2 small people not being allowed to play.
We were giants compared to like the other high schools because we recruited Samoans.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. But if you're going like, well, the Asian school can't compete with the Samoans, right? So the Samoans aren't allowed to play so the Asians can play football. Again, I don't think you handicap the better in order to make the weak feel better about themselves.
Was that
like Harrison
true?
Bergeron.
Were other people you played against actually like way smaller than your school?
Yes.
Well, I think they should be allowed to agree that they wouldn't play against them.
They didn't have to. They could absolutely forfeit.
That's what I'm saying.
But they don't get to say that we can't play because we're so much bigger, stronger, faster.
That's a whole different team. That's like a whole different scenario.
Who do you think you're going to play against?
Somebody else's team. There's probably more than just one team of Samoans to play against.
Yeah, there was. We've challenged them in the championship, and it was a much closer game.
Another team of Samoans?
Yeah.
Well,
the ones that couldn't afford to go to our school went to the public school, and the ones that got the scholarship to play on our football team got the private school education and the football education.
I also think there's probably a closer comparison between like just some white dude and a Samoan than a girl on the other team, even that's a Samoan, you know, and a Samoan. It's just like...
Yeah, and again, I'll go back to what I said before at the beginning of this conversation was I'm fine.
I wasn't saying it against you. I was just simply saying...
I don't think women should be playing in men's leagues unless they're good enough. And the fact is that most women aren't good enough to compete in the men's leagues, and so we've established women's leagues for them.
I just think it's like whenever the volleyball thing, or not volleyball, the boxing thing happened at the Olympics last year, where that person was possibly trans, and I've never even had that confirmed.
She wasn't trans. She was intersex.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a difference.
Never had it confirmed, whatever. But when that conversation was going on, so a person that you're saying apparently was intersex was fighting in boxing, I think it was, against a woman and won, and everybody was saying
won the gold.
That a man beat up a woman and all that stuff. I don't remember the names. I don't remember the countries. I was just like, why do people care about this at all? Like, because there are women...
I don't remember her name, but it was Algeria.
Algeria, yeah, you're right. And I don't remember that other country, honestly. But all I was saying back then was like, why do people even care about this when this is something like
because they wanted to make it a translate.
You're signing up as an adult to get beat up and beat someone else up. You're a woman. You guys just shouldn't be doing this. It's so stupid.
And she won the gold, but she didn't have a perfect record outside of it. And she had been beaten.
I just think it's a little different when it's like kids in schools and it's like it's what people do in high school at that time. What do you think? Should trans kids be allowed in schools? I mean, in sports?
If you're David, a few well-chosen words can help level the playing field with Goliath. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. Recently, I saw a Yellow Pages ad for an appliance repair company, and the headline read, "Why wait for Sears?" If you're going to the Yellow Pages, the Dead Sea Scrolls of advertising, you're ready to buy right now. So this is an attention-grabbing message. And how about the plumber whose radio ad says, "Call by noon Thursday, and we'll be there Saturday at no extra cost"? Smart guy. Most plumbing firms give their crew the weekend off. This one gives them Sunday and Monday off. In the words of a respected advertising executive, cut to the chase, make it quick, and tell me exactly what you can do for me, especially if you're looking for work. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The UK government has suspended negotiations with Israel for a new free trade agreement over what British Foreign Secretary David Lammy called the indefensible and cruel blockade of aid into Gaza and Israel's expanded military operations. Speaking to Parliament on Tuesday, David Lammy said that the conflict had entered a dark new phase, with the humanitarian catastrophe intensifying in Gaza. The announcement follows a joint statement by the leaders of the UK, France and Canada condemning the Israeli government's actions in Gaza, which was met with anger by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. David Lammy also announced that the Israeli ambassador in London was being summoned to convey the demand to end the renewed Israeli military actions and the end to the blockade of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Despite the glimmer of hope from January's ceasefire, the suffering from this conflict has worsened. But January showed another path was possible. We urge Netanyahu's government to choose this path. The world is judging. History will judge them. Blocking aid, expanding the war, dismissing the concerns of your friends and partners, this is indefensible, and it must stop.
The first flight carrying migrants who've chosen to self-deport has left the United States for Central America. The Department of Homeland Security has offered $1,000 and a free flight for anyone wanting to leave. Nick Harper in Washington has the details.
First plane load of people left Houston, Texas, flying 64 citizens to Colombia and Honduras. It's all part of a new Trump administration initiative, offering travel assistance to illegal migrants who want to self-deport. Authorities in Honduras say at least 4 of the children on board were born in the US, making them American citizens. The Department of Homeland Security says the scheme will help to reduce deportation costs, which usually average more than $17,000 per person. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to meet his US counterpart Donald Trump on Wednesday, with relations between the two allies at their lowest point in decades. Donald Trump is alleging, without proof, that white South African farmers are victims of a genocide and that the state is seizing their land. The US has expelled the South African ambassador and ended all aid to the country. Some advisers fear President Ramaphosa risks a Volodymyr Zelensky-style dressing down in the Oval Office. But Mr. Ramaphosa, a seasoned political negotiator, says the meeting will give him a chance to set the record straight and to show that the two golf-playing tycoons have more in common than is thought. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And the largest libertarian camping festival, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, is being held at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire this June 16th through the 22nd. PorcFest is the flagship annual event of the Free State Project. This year will feature speakers like Jacob Hornberger of the Future of Freedom Foundation, who's going to discuss Ian Freeman's case, Bob Murphy, Joel Salatin, and our own Jay Noon. Come the weekend before, June 13th through the 15th, for the laid-back pre-PorcFest decentralized party, ForkFest, as well. You can go to porkfest.com, that's porkfest with a P as in Paul, and you can also go to forkfest.party, that's forkfest with an F as in fire truck. I wrote that, but that's still going to mess me up at some point. So porkfest.com and then forkfest.party to learn more, and we hope to see you there. With you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
And Free Talk Live is a call-in talk show that anyone can bring up whatever is on your mind. That's the point. So if you'd like to get in on the conversation with us, bring up something that's on your mind, or change the subject, or tell us we're wrong about what we're talking about, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. That number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And New Jersey is being a hellhole, as it has always been. I'm sure I can say hellhole on there.
It's the Garden State.
The Garden State. Yeah, I always have heard that, and I never thought it was any more green or beautiful than, like, honestly, the next state around here. You know, like, everything's green around here.
I feel like the most famous thing about New Jersey is its proximity to New York.
Right. That's one thing I think about. I think of Jersey Shore, and that was, you know, I was in middle school when Jersey Shore was the thing, so...
I've unfortunately seen some episodes.
I've seen a lot. Me and my friends used to have like sleepovers to watch new ones and stuff. It was an entertaining show. I'll say that.
I'm gonna use the term coerced loosely, but I was coerced into watching it because I would go over to my buddy's house to hang out, and his girlfriend would be watching it, and so like that's what's on, man. That's
it was just a fascinating train wreck. It's like none of me and my friends wanted to be like them. It was just funny,
all right,
and so stupid. But
I still only remember Snooki.
Snooki, yeah.
Okay.
That's the main one I remember. Even all the men are like the same to me. I remember Snooki and Sammy and the one that called herself Meatball.
There was one dude that had like a title instead of a name.
The Situation.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So I remember that about New Jersey, and I also think of it as being like a statist hellhole.
Yeah.
During COVID, some people that came up here to visit, there were tons of people that came up to New Hampshire to visit during COVID. That's when I moved here, and the stories that I would hear from all the different states, there were multiple different states that had it really bad. I feel like my stories from just like San Antonio were pretty bad. People thought Texas was probably great, but the cities were not. But one of the worst ones was New Jersey. People were getting their kids taken away for not masking their kids and stuff like that.
Wasn't the New Jersey where the gym owner like protested against it?
Ian Smith.
Okay.
Yep, for his Attilis gym.
All right, good
He
memory.
went and opened his gym up when the state had closed it. We do have a caller in the line, so we'll get into why New Jersey is statist and a hellhole and horrible whenever after we talk to this caller, unless he wants to talk about how New Jersey is a hellhole. Caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Jersey Shore is the greatest show of all time.
What? No, it's not.
Yes, it is. And Snooki and Sammy Sweetheart makes my PV hard, and so did the other one. I forget what her name was. Jen.
The Situation?
Deanna.
Oh.
The one that called herself Meatball. She was Deanna or Dina or something.
I think there was another one.
Really? Angelina? Angelina was prettier than Deanna.
No, it's the one that lived with Snooki.
Oh, JWoww. Yeah.
You know way too much names.
I'm telling you, I actually watched the show.
I believe you.
Yeah, it was a good show for the chicks.
No, I don't think anybody seriously thought that. Like, I don't think anybody was like, yeah, they're so hot.
You think dudes were watching for other dudes? Or you don't think dudes were watching the show?
I feel like mostly women were watching. Maybe some dudes were being coerced like you. And maybe there were some dudes like her that thought they were hot. I don't know. I think JWoww was actually like a pretty person. And I actually think Snooki is pretty today. She wasn't back then. And they were just disgusting. Like, you probably ground zero for new diseases.
Well, she had big boobs, but I was gonna say though that Sammy was probably the hottest one out of all of them. Sammy Sweetheart, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, she was the one that went away first, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like a bunch of them went away though, you know. Or
Yeah.
If you put up names and faces, I would not be able to match any of this.
Not even Snooki?
Maybe no, not anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Current day Snooki looks very different.
I think the only reason Snooki sticks out to me, number one, because of her name,
Mhm.
and I think she made a few appearances for like WWE.
Oh, I thought you were
So
going
there
to
was,
say South Park.
No, because I foolishly self-boycotted South Park a long time ago, and I regret that.
Yep. She was like a monster that would say like Snooki wants snoo snoo and try to have intercourse with people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Turds type
That
of
was a
girl.
great episode.
Turds type, right? That's how they have it first
Well, I
and thought
don't-
of Snooki, and Turd was like, "Wow, she's so hot."
Well, she was short and had really big boobs. That's what I like. I like I'm attracted to feminine women, you know. But I still think Sammy was the hottest one. Bonnie, I heard you got bolt-ons. That's the word on the street.
What does that mean?
Like fake boobs.
No, wait. Ball pongs? I've never heard that term.
Bolt.
Bolt-ons?
Oh, bolt-ons.
I don't know what that means either.
Nope. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Take my call.
You really had nothing else to talk about? Oh my goodness. So ridiculous.
Just keep an eye on the camera.
Yeah. But in New Jersey, there's more that makes it a hellhole than just Jersey Shore.
So eminent domain issues.
Oh no.
New Jersey town says small setbacks and stray cats allow it to seize private property. Two business owners say the city of Perth Amboy is using exceedingly flimsy blight allegations to take and potentially demolish their property. Honey Mirzon's parents are Jews from the Soviet Union who moved to the United States in the 1970s to escape religious discrimination. Luis Romero's parents fled Castro's Cuba while he was 8 years old. The two ended up as neighboring business owners at the corner of Smith and Herbert Street in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. It's there that Romero has been running his family's tire shop, Quick Tire, for the past 20 years. Mirzon has owned the 4-unit rental property next door for the past 10. Now, these two children of refugees from communism are having their businesses taken from them by the all-too-American process of eminent domain.
Wow.
Last
and they
month,
escaped communism for that?
it's weird, right? Because like you think of communism, and then you see pictures of like China, where they, you know, they're building like a massive structure or a highway, and there's like one holdout house, and they just can't get it because they don't have eminent domain laws.
In China?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that happens?
And they're respectful of it.
Whoa.
So this whole structure goes up around this like tiny house, and they just can't do it. And you know, in America, they would have just crushed that dude.
Yeah.
But like, oh, those are the communists over there. Last month, the city council of Perth Amboy voted that Mirzon and Romero's properties were not, in fact, comfortable homes or a successful business, but are rather blighted hazards. Because the two buildings are too close together, too close to the street, and have some sign-collected litter and stray cats in the backyard, the city says it's now entitled to take the properties. Mirzon and Romero... Go ahead.
Just because there is stray cats and what else in the yard?
So the buildings are too close together, and they're too close to the street.
Mm-hmm.
So like, however,
that makes them not cozy?
well, makes them a hazard.
Oh, okay.
According to the city.
I was going to say, if coziness levels, that's kind of subjective, but...
Right.
Okay.
But like, if it's, for, number one, if it's too close to the street, who the city had to authorize that initial permit, you would assume.
Yeah.
Right. So then, no, you're fine building there.
Did the city build the street closer to their front door? Because they're actually starting to do that at another property of ours in Keene.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For freaking bike lanes, and I've never even seen a bike driving there.
I once got my car towed because they put up a temporary no parking sign in front of my car, and then just like towed it.
Whoa.
And then
Was that in New Hampshire?
No.
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had to pay to get my car back from impound, but I got the ticket dismissed. But like I didn't get my money back from impound.
That's horrible.
I did, however, steal their sign. Like the fold up road sign with the yellow blinking light or whatever.
Mhm.
I kept that as restitution payment.
Oh my god.
So I don't know. I might have thrown it out when I moved here, but I was like, screw you guys. You're not putting up a sign and then towing my car. So
And then they couldn't use it on other people.
Well, I mean, they have infinite amount of signs, but still, I kept that one. That one was mine. The Mirzan and Romero strongly object to the idea that their properties are in any way blighted. They argue that the city's report claiming otherwise is riddled with erroneous complaints and fatal factual errors. Nevertheless, the city has moved forward with seizing their properties, which sit right on the edge of a massive city-facilitated warehouse project. Both property owners now face a looming deadline at the end of May, so coming up, to file a lawsuit challenging the seizure. They refuse to answer our calls. They refuse to answer any of our lawyers, said Mirzan. They're waiting for us to go to Superior Court to monetarily drain us until we have no choice but to take whatever they offer us.
Wow.
Neither Perth Amboy's mayor nor any member of the city council responded to Reason's request for comment. Both Mirzan and Romero see a dark irony in their properties being seized by the city, given their family's background. My parents said this is the only way you get on your feet. You have to take a risk. You have to make an investment. You have to leave a legacy for your children, Mirzan tells Reason. This is what happens to the legacy they dreamt of having coming here.
It's so horrible that it used to be that you could just make a business in America and better your life and your family's lives, and you didn't have to have that much money to start it. And now they have made it to where that's really hard to do because all of these fees and taxes that you have to start up a business at all, and all these regulations where you might just not be allowed to ever do that business, period. And now they're just going to take the land from these people for...
I will say this before you press that button. At least moving to New Hampshire, even though it's a fee you pay to the state, right? You can form an LLC for like $100. And so starting a business, at least in that respect, fairly simple to do here.
I don't know if it's really way more expensive than other states. I just don't know.
Okay.
But when some friends of mine started a business, there was just so many things, and they had to like meet older people who had businesses to even figure out what some of them were.
Right.
That's the most.
And
annoying.
I just filled out a form online, paid my $100, and have like I want to call it defunct now because I haven't really used it in several years. But
it might depend on like what the business is too, like what things you have to do. What things you have to pay? Maybe
later, but to start a business. So like I'm now an LLC, $100 and like 15 minutes online.
Well, we do have a caller on the line, so let's see what they have to say. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Thanks for taking my call. I was going to say, it sounds like a Jersey thing, right? I don't know. Maybe there's some mob connections involved there, with the city. Maybe some bribing. I'm not 100% sure.
There's a gang involved.
Maybe, a warehouse thing going on there. Something to do with a warehouse. It kind of makes me think of the mafia or something. Maybe possibly. I think of The Sopranos when I think of New Jersey. But
the problem is, if it was a mafia thing, they just would have like extorted them directly, right? Like the mafia, the mafia can't use eminent domain.
No, they're trying to get out of the business. They're trying to go legit.
Okay.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, right?
Okay.
Maybe all of the mafia joined the gang called the government.
No, it might be New Jersey. There was some state where they literally elected a former mafia guy, like a mafia hitman or something. You keep talking. I'll see if I can find it. Was it New Jersey?
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you for the call.
Never mind.
I mean, there is a gang involved.
Yeah, it's the government. Yeah.
I'm sure there's been more than one state that's elected a mob or mafia
Illinois.
member. Yeah, wasn't that there were like a crackhead guy in Illinois?
I don't remember exactly, but what's the governor? Rod Blagojevich or whatever. I think that's the one that was accused of having mafia or mob connections.
Yeah, the whole idea behind eminent domain is just insane because they have their little justifications and they get to decide if those justifications are justified, and then they just get to take your stuff. They get to take your things and your property, and they never have to give them back to you if it's found out that, it wasn't really justified.
And even if you want to be like a constitutionalist about it, like the plain words in the Constitution regarding eminent domain are very clear, and yet the Supreme Court in Kelo versus New London, which was the Pink House, down in Connecticut, altered the meanings of the words to allow for more things like this, more taking advantage of this.
That case caused that?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
because I'm trying to remember the exact terminology. The terminology in the Constitution is like public use. So it has to be like, whatever you're taking it for has to be, like they're encroaching on your Keene building, right, to build a road. Mm-hmm. Well, presumably the road is for everybody, right? So they're going to get away with that one because this is public use. In Kelo versus New London, they said they changed it from public use to public benefit, and they weren't taking it for public use. They were taking it to give the land to a private organization who would more efficiently use that land and therefore pay more taxes to the city, and that was for the public benefit. Because now the city would be taking in more income that they could then use for public projects, but that particular piece of parcel was not for public use. It was for the public benefit, and that's what changed. So
and that's what's so crazy. It's just like that. Just because people could get jobs there, it's just so subjective about what is public benefit.
Well, yes, but public use seems very clear. Like roads.
More clear, yeah.
More clear, yeah. Roads. If they were putting up like a city building or something, like a town hall, I'm not agreeing with it, but I could understand the justification based on like the public use theory. Mm-hmm. Fine, you're going to extend the sidewalk onto the property as for sidewalks for public use. But if you're going to take the property,
and everybody gets to use it. But
everyone gets to use it.
Pfizer, I think it was moving into
that's the one that was public benefit.
Yeah, it's like
because they were giving it to a private organization, Pfizer, just to get more taxes.
Most people could say, "Yeah, I don't benefit from this just because Pfizer's in the same town as me."
Well, that's the long justification. So Pfizer, you don't benefit directly because you're not going to be able to walk into Pfizer's building, right, unattended or like you would on a sidewalk or on the road.
Yep.
But again, the town would collect more tax revenue, and that was public benefit.
That's just insane. And it's just like just because Keene, New Hampshire collects more taxes I don't think it necessarily has to directly affect and help me. I don't think it does. I mean, is Keene going to cut down on my property taxes because they made more money with X, Y, or Z deal they did? Probably not.
Probably not.
That would be the only way I could really see why or how they could prove that, yeah, you definitely are benefiting from this, as if they cut my property taxes directly.
Right. Well, and as a libertarian / anarchist, whatever label you want to use, right, anytime you're giving the state more money is not a good thing.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I could probably prove that it benefits me less if they start going after you for parking ticket, blah, blah, blah.
Right. If the state has more income to use, not for you, then they're obviously going to use it against you to rip you off more.
And that's why
in some form or fashion.
Democrats absolutely love that type of language. They can get people on their side by using that language because it's like the public good, the greater good is what they always love to say. Like there is actually signs in New Hampshire, I don't know if it's a national thing, but I've seen it in New Hampshire, that Democrats will put in their yard that say Democrats for the greater good.
Yep. At the expense of the individual.
Yep.
Yep.
Just absolutely brainwashing propaganda. We do have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the calls and see what you have on your mind. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Why is this unscreened? I called from my home phone. This is Gigi.
Oh, I just didn't go to the screening page right now.
Okay.
That's all. Hi,
no,
Gigi.
I don't do star 67 when I call Free Talk Live.
I bet you'd star 69 if the captain was here, though.
Ridiculous.
Aren't you adorable? You got that right, honey.
See?
Well, this is Gigi from South Carolina.
So cute. You know me, don't you? Wherever the captain is in his RV, wandering about the countryside, I wish him a safe journey, and I miss his contributions very much. I adored him.
Gallivanting, as he liked to say.
Well,
would you say he was very professional, Gigi?
I beg your pardon?
Would you say the captain was very professional as a host of Free Talk Live?
He had a wicked sense of humor.
All right.
But he was very bright. I loved his I loved that he had a great sense of humor. He was into current events like me, and I learned a lot from him on economics and business like I do with you, because I don't have a background in that, and I like to listen and learn from people. Can't know everything in life.
Unless you're Donald Trump.
At Social Sunday, I was talking to people at the table, and we were all saying, like, yes, there were tons of people that Captain was their favorite show to watch and everything, and I don't know why Penguins seems to think he was, quote, unprofessional. I don't know. I
don't share that opinion.
Right.
I don't share that opinion
I think
at all.
that Penguin just compares everyone to Ian and Mark, and that's all. You know, like, there are people who, like, nothing will ever get better than their favorite X, Y, or Z thing, and it's, like, nostalgic to them.
Yes.
And I think that's what it is for Penguin.
I'm there, too, right? Like, Mark and Ian, or Ian and Mark are 1 and 2.
You know that.
Yeah.
You're always a gentleman. You have a wonderful, open, and inclusive mind, except when it comes to the death penalty.
What?
I said you have a wonderful, open, and progressive mind.
Okay.
Except you once made a comment about the death penalty,
okay,
which I disagreed with you, but you are entitled to your opinion.
Okay. Do you want, I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'm more than happy to rediscuss it. I'm not sure.
No, sir, that's not why I called. Right. We can respectfully disagree. In any event, isn't it wonderful that 7 of the justices, including the Supreme Court justice, voted commenting specifically on what I said when I called last week regarding the lack of due process and the critical importance of habeas corpus pertaining to this administration's reinstating the 1789 Alien and Sedition Act. Deport, 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 guilty prior to any type of time in court to plead your case and hear what a charge or charges are levied against you.
Yeah.
I am a happy woman today.
So I did read an article on this, and one of the positions raised or concerns raised was that when in making their decision, like, I think you're right, they got the decision right, but they left some things like ambiguous. So they said, like,
I agree with you, yes. So, but I think there was a reason as to why.
Okay, go on.
And again, it's just my opinion. I could be wrong, both technically as well as legally. I feel that the ambiguous... Wait, am I saying it right?
Ambiguity.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The ambiguity was purposely left blank in terms of broad general because they took it on an emergency appeal, but many of the justices made comments in the oral arguments. This should have gone through the proper appellate channels.
Okay. So you think they'll revisit it then? Because what you don't want from the Supreme Court is ambiguity. Like, it's got to be cut and dry when they make their decisions. So you know.
I think it'll go back down to the lower courts. I could be wrong, and you could be correct.
I just don't like ambiguity when it comes from the Supreme Court. Right?
Yeah, we will see what unfolds.
Okay.
So did we find out why? Oh, well, we can talk about it in the next segment. Thank you for the call, Gigi, and I really appreciate her bringing that subject up. I didn't have it in show prep, and definitely needs to be talked about. Trump was at least toying with the idea of suspending habeas corpus, and I could see him saying, oh, it's an invasion. So let's talk about it. 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live. More Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere. 603-283-6160.
Free Talk Live.
For the listeners, each talk show has like a, you're in the Joe Blow Army, or, you know, the Ditto Heads. Do the lefties have it too?
I couldn't tell you.
Ed Heads, isn't?
Yep, Ed Heads.
Yeah, Ed Heads. So they all have them. I really want
to hear from you. I'd like to rename our listeners Mindless Free Talk Live Zombies. What do you think?
Free Talk Live automatons.
Call in if you're a mindless Free Talk Live zombie.
What does it mean to you to be left? What does it mean to you
progressive,
to be right? What does it mean to you to be conservative? What does it mean to you to be liberal? I think they're very vague concepts. that pit people against one another. Many people who otherwise, in the absence of being able to plaster themselves with that label, might find out they've got an awful lot in common.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The UK government has suspended negotiations with Israel for a new free trade agreement over what British Foreign Secretary David Lammy called the indefensible and cruel blockade of aid into Gaza and Israel's expanded military operations. Speaking to Parliament on Tuesday, David Lammy said that the conflict had entered a dark new phase, with the humanitarian catastrophe intensifying in Gaza. The announcement follows a joint statement by the leaders of the UK, France and Canada condemning the Israeli government's actions in Gaza, which was met with anger by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. David Lammy also announced that the Israeli ambassador in London was being summoned to convey the demand to end the renewed Israeli military actions and the end to the blockade of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Despite the glimmer of hope from January's ceasefire, the suffering from this conflict has worsened. But January showed another path was possible. We urge Netanyahu's government to choose this path. The world is judging. History will judge them. Blocking aid, expanding the war, dismissing the concerns of your friends and partners, this is indefensible, and it must stop.
The first flight carrying migrants who've chosen to self-deport has left the United States for Central America. The Department of Homeland Security has offered $1,000 and a free flight for anyone wanting to leave. Nick Harper in Washington has the details.
First plane load of people left Houston, Texas, flying 64 citizens to Colombia and Honduras. It's all part of a new Trump administration initiative, offering travel assistance to illegal migrants who want to self-deport. Authorities in Honduras say at least 4 of the children on board were born in the US, making them American citizens. The Department of Homeland Security says the scheme will help to reduce deportation costs, which usually average more than $17,000 per person. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to meet his US counterpart Donald Trump on Wednesday, with relations between the two allies at their lowest point in decades. Donald Trump is alleging, without proof, that white South African farmers are victims of a genocide and that the state is seizing their land. The US has expelled the South African ambassador and ended all aid to the country. Some advisers fear President Ramaphosa risks a Volodymyr Zelensky-style dressing down in the Oval Office. But Mr. Ramaphosa, a seasoned political negotiator, says the meeting will give him a chance to set the record straight and to show that the two golf-playing tycoons have more in common than is thought. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, with more today on the future of the war in Ukraine after President Trump's latest efforts to broker a ceasefire and his conversation on Monday with Russian President Vladimir Putin. We heard yesterday from Kurt Volker, President Trump's former special representative to Ukraine, about Kiev's efforts to try and drive a wedge between the White House and the Kremlin. Today, Ambassador Volker on what he thinks a peace agreement should not look like. The US, he says, cannot simply accept all of Putin's demands.
I don't think Putin will ever agree to a reasonable settlement. So when I say it's got to be fair and just, it means that we don't accept Putin's outrageous demands, his demands that he gets to annex Ukrainian territory. Ukraine gives up even more. Ukraine is demilitarized. Ukraine has a change of government to suit Putin. Ukraine is permanently neutral. None of those things should happen. So what we end up with is a ceasefire and a standoff, a ceasefire and a long-term disagreement.
But it remains unclear whether Vladimir Putin wants to avoid that eventuality, and the US has already effectively negotiated away many of those things in earlier conversations with the Russians and in the draft plan for a ceasefire that both Moscow and Kiev have received from the White House. European leaders who travelled to Kiev only 10 days ago to express solidarity with President Zelensky are expected to continue pushing for a very different outcome. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. The UK government has suspended negotiations with Israel for a new free trade agreement over what British Foreign Secretary David Lammy called the indefensible and cruel blockade of aid into Gaza. The first flight carrying migrants who've chosen to self-deport has left the US for Central America. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to meet his US counterpart Donald Trump on Wednesday. And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
This week, badly shaken researchers reported observing an osprey stalking, killing, and devouring an adult male lion in what is being called a massive food chain shakeup. Confirmation of the 3-pound marine bird consuming the 400-pound feline has biologists scrambling to determine the new predator-prey connections between the planet's billions of organisms.
We seem to be experiencing some sort of cross-species dietary free-for-all.
Scientists say that the killing of the healthy, full-grown lion by a typical osprey specimen has lent credibility to recent reports of a deer seen grazing on a nest of squirrels in Wisconsin, as well as a claim made by a group of Japanese fishermen who say they witnessed 300 million krill devouring a 40-ton humpback whale. In other news, NASA acquires the moon for an upcoming Kennedy Space Center exhibit. A radio DJ invites the whole town to some bullshit, and assuming the many universes theory of quantum mechanics is accurate, the review you've just seen will remain relevant in another reality for all eternity. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160, and Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
And we really didn't spend enough time on the fact that this town in New Jersey is taking property from people for such silly reasons, because they can basically make up anything because they've made the parameter so large and vague.
Right.
And one of the reasons is that stray cats
in the backyard
live in the property,
right.
Live on the on the land. It's like stray cats don't just live in any one yard; they go all over.
Yeah,
they probably sat around for hours, what can we get on these people? And a cat goes by, and they're like, "Yo, there's something, stray cat in the yard."
Right,
I mean, stray cats walk through my yard all the time, but I don't have one.
And the other two, right? There was there's three main things. The stray cats was one of them. The other one was too close together and too close to like the edge of the property, right, to the road. Yeah. And the point for those is like, well, again, I don't think they built this without getting a permit. Mm-hmm. Right. So someone from the city went like, yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Check.
At some
you
point.
can do it at some point. Right. So to come back and say like, well, it's too close to the road.
Then we could just take it.
And we can take it now. Like, dude, you let them put it too close. The time to address that was when they were getting the permit.
Yeah. What thing that you've gotten a permit for, can the government just come and say, well, now we could take your whole property because you did this thing that you got a permit for?
Clearly, because they're doing it in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
My parents said, back to the article, my parents said, this is the only way you get on your feet. Oh, I read that one already. This is what happens to the legacy they dreamt of having come here. The reason my parents left Cuba.
What country was it? Oh, Cuba.
One of them was from Cuba. I forget where the other one was from. I can scroll up in a minute.
Another hellhole.
Right.
Communist hellhole.
The reason my parents left Cuba is the system, how it was. They just come to your home, say, we want this property. You have to get out, says Romero. Here, it's done legally. Make way for getaway. In April 2024, Perth Amboy Mayor Helman Kaba and members of the city council gathered a few houses down from Mirzan and Romero's properties on Smith Street for a little demolition work. The occasion was a press conference to announce the beginning of the city's Gateway redevelopment project. For 2 decades, Perth Amboy has been plotting a conversion of the town's waterfront and former industrial areas into a more desirable mix of apartments, recreational space, and logistics businesses. Gateway, a joint project between the city's redevelopment agency and Denver-based developer Viridian Partners, was the latest stage in this massive government-led reinvention of Perth Amboy. So again, much like the Kilo case, not for public use, right? For private use that they're going to justify by saying public benefit because, it's so much more beautiful here now with this redevelopment.
That's ridiculous. Even beauty is
subjective.
In a way, subjective.
No, it's objective.
I think that it's at least partially objective, but I mean, then there's like opinion does, weigh in. It's like I could say that I think it's more beautiful in the desert than the green, lush river. Like no one can argue that. Yeah.
Too bad he already called in, but Turd Ferguson has definitely different beauty standards than other people.
Yeah, he loves Snooki.
Right.
That's
Whatever.
his number one fave.
Okay. But symmetry is a big part of it. When they go like, when we're measuring objective beauty, symmetry is a big part of it. Mm-hmm. But I also had like a buddy once tell me, he's like, Rich, I know your type. I'm like, what's my type? He's like, dude, you like tall, white, ugly chicks. I'm like, what? Okay. I'm like, I don't think they're ugly. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all like, you're
subjective.
Ooh, ugly chicks.
Yeah, no.
I wonder if anybody is.
No. Again, not to me. But to him, yes. Except the one time. So I was working with him at a salad restaurant, and this chick that I thought was hot, she was a model. Like, she had modeled in like car magazines. Mm-hmm. And he comes walking out of the back area with the clean dishes to put away because he was doing the dishwasher duties, and he like stared at her and just froze, like just complete like like eyes and mouth agape,
glazed over.
Glazed I'm like,
over.
Dude, you obviously think she's hot too. Like you can't tell me that she's ugly and then like that's your reaction to seeing her walk in is to just freeze in your spot.
Dang. And
he did not like me bringing that up in front of his girlfriend.
Uh-oh.
But whatever.
Did in front of his girlfriend.
Of course I did, because screw that guy. Telling me like, I know your type. And like, dude, you were checking her out too.
Yeah, everybody you date is ugly.
Right.
Well, do you want to go to the phones?
Sure, we can pause.
We have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to an unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I do not like
now I regret saying
and
yes.
ham. I do not like them. Sam, I am.
Okay.
Logic in one lesson by Dr. Seuss Hazlitt.
What color is the ham?
It was green, right? If
I don't know.
Wow.
Is it?
Have you read the book?
I've read the book, clearly.
I want to make absolutely sure, but I'm
not talking
sure
about
green.
I'm not talking about like the illustration in the book. I'm talking about when you hear the phrase green eggs and ham, what color is the ham?
Well, I would think green. Yeah,
Okay.
It's green in the book too. I just made
Okay.
sure.
So if you wanted green eggs and normal colored ham, how would you phrase that?
Oh, I see. Green eggs and normal colored ham. I imagined it green, eggs and ham.
So
I think that's how I've always thought
an
of it.
appropriate use of a comma then.
Distributes.
What's that?
The green distributes. It's green, eggs, and ham. not green eggs and ham.
Right. So my question has always been, if you wanted green eggs and normal colored ham, how would you phrase that differently?
I don't see why you would put a comma.
Green
I think
eggs
it would just, you
and
wouldn't
ham.
be able to know until someone clarified.
So where's the comma, Skeeter? After eggs, green eggs, comma, and ham?
I don't think it's
it's not
appropriate
formal,
for any...
So an Oxford comma would be necessary.
No, an Oxford comma is
It's
when
not
there's
formal,
more
so
than...
it's ambiguous.
Yeah, when there's more than one thing. Or, sorry, more than two things.
But this is the whole point. This is why you don't read Dr. Seuss for logic. But this is not what I wanted to talk about.
Clearly not.
And beauty is objective. You know that, right?
I think we just covered that as both objective and subjective.
And there are some people that go out there and say, like, it's 100% subjective. And I think that idea is too, like soaked into the culture. Lots of people are like, it's just completely subjective. No, it's not. It's not completely subjective.
Well, it's culturally
That's where
objective.
the actual argument is.
Yeah.
But with him, he's going to be like, it's actually 100% objective. That's so stupid.
Not quite. You know what the solution is? Short-run beauty is subjective, but long-run beauty, what we're forced to be attracted to, is objective.
What you're
And we're
forced to be attracted to.
Yeah, we're forced to be attracted to
Well, he has a dominatrix.
What's morality. But hey, Rich, this is not
How
what
are
I
you
was talking
forced to
about
be attracted to anything? I feel like that just comes naturally.
Did you have a choice to be attracted to guys, Rich? Did you? No. Okay, so this is not what I want to talk about. Hey,
Okay, I don't feel forced to be attracted to females, though. I feel like that's like...
forced.
Yeah.
Skeeter's like, I was forced. I didn't want it to be this way.
Okay, then change your preference for guys, Rich. I dare you.
Okay.
But hey, Rich, you were wrong about tariffs. Did you realize that? Now you see how raising tariffs in the short run can lower tariffs in the long run. You admit you're wrong now that China and U.S. are on the verge of negotiations?
No.
You see, it's at least possible, right?
What Trump admitted from the beginning was that he was using it. Trump was using it as a negotiating tool. I acknowledge that. But
no, you didn't. You just said, "Oh, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. It's stupid. It's stupid." And I said, hey,
yes, because the American consumer is still worse off.
No, they're not.
Right? Trump came out and said, well, maybe the kids don't need 30 dolls.
Yeah.
Maybe they can live with 2. It's a tacit admission that his policies make people financially worse off.
In the short run, if they manage to negotiate, like, let's say, 0 tariffs for a longer period of time than the period that they increased the tariffs for, we experience a net benefit. We get cheaper dolls for a longer time than we get more expensive dolls relative to if we did nothing, right? You need to learn how to do game theory, boy. But this is not what I want to talk about, right?
Again, you're terrible at game theory, too.
Is it actually true that it's at all possible that we're going to get cheaper anything out of this? Because I don't see the way.
No, because he's still keeping the tariffs at like 80%.
And it also seems like he's just trying to steal the language from like Malay, like, oh, short-term pain for long-term benefit, but Malay was doing things like deregulation,
Right.
actually cutting out the government.
Yes. And the short-term pain from Malay's deregulation was for people who were addicted to government payouts. Like they're going to experience pain.
The only problem with like tit for tat is you're not truly working with rational actors in this case because they're like government people. And that's the problem with government. It's not central planning.
When you say rational, do you mean like rational or do you mean irrational?
Well, this case, so the Austrians use rational in a heterodox sense. That is crazy stupid. I never want to use that term. Rational means you're in line with profitability and evolution. That's truly rational.
That's your definition of rational.
That's the conventional sense of rational.
Okay.
When you're profit maximizing, and especially when you incorporate my evolutionary analysis, that's morality. That's rationality. It converges with being moral. But this is not what I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about...
You brought up like 3 things you don't want to talk about.
Well, I beat you on all 3 so far, so I deserve a 4th.
Beat you.
Right? Privacy. I was talking about in the chat. They said someone said money is the root of all evil, but that's wrong.
That's not even the whole quote.
Isn't it the love of money?
Yes.
The love of money is the root of all evil.
Well, that's wrong too. It's privacy that's the root of all evil.
Wow, that's stupid.
You realize that, right? It is. It's privacy.
What about the evil
money.
that's done right in the open? Can't be the root of
What's
that. I said, what about the evil that's done right in the open? It can't be the evil, the root of that evil.
Yes, just think about it, Bonnie. First off, it's hard to execute. It's hard to execute a crime if everyone knows everything up to that point and where you are at all
Too bad it happens. So the fact that happens destroys your argument. I beat you. It's over.
How does one go murdering? How does one go, like, if I wanted to murder Richie Rich, which I do, right? When you have a completely transparent society with SkeeterNet and the LightNet, where everyone knows about everything, you're tracked everywhere you go, all your history is known, all your disputes are known, virtually your thoughts are known. How am I going to murder Rich?
Become a cop or join the military.
The cops do it so often that if you listen to any of those true crime podcasts, they're constantly saying like, oh my god, the cops knew about this, that, and that, and the cops knew this was going to happen. They did nothing to stop it. They're always begging for more cops and more regulations, and it's like, well, the people that didn't stop it are going to stop it if you just beg them to.
Someone asked me that recently, like, how do you get away with murder? I'm like, just join the military or become a cop. Like, that's the easy answer.
You can't do that. How are you going to do that with no privacy?
They do it with impunity now. And with body cams on.
I've switched one of my positions. Well, I've actually just altered it slightly, but I think privacy can destroy democracy itself. It's not even accelerationism maybe the second half of the strategy, but privacy, if you destroy privacy right now by creating the LightNet, right? SkeeterNet, where everybody is almost forced to participate. It's voluntary at first, but so imagine this, right? So my vision is for the LightNet, right? It's the opposite of the darknet. It's where all information is available for anybody, all history, any revision to any website, all that stuff is there for everyone to see, all your medical records. So at first, you have to opt in, right? At first, of course, because it has to work. It's like a virus, right? It has to work.
Yes, your idea is like a virus.
System. Yes, and it'll spread like one because evolution will select for it, right? Once, and
then it will die like one.
Adopting it,
because that's also evolutionary.
But this is where the money's. So a LightNet, the LightNet will serve all major infrastructure for any economy. Imagine this. Skeeterpedia, Skeeter Bay, right? And Skeeter Coin, right?
I feel like this is the plot to Hot Tub Time Machine, where he goes back in time and creates Lugal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, watch it. Put that on the list, Bonnie.
I'm talking about the ultimate form of the internet.
You're talking about the ultimate form of openness and non-privacy, but it's opt-in, so I've already opted out, and I'm not part of it. So
if we're still talking about is it the root of all evil, and you're saying privacy is, somebody can decide in the middle of walking down the street that they want to kill somebody and do it right there in the open. So your
and they do it in New York.
Yeah,
it's just over.
It would have to be. It would almost have to be random, though, Bonnie. I mean, no one.
Most murders are random.
That's not true.
Huh?
No. Oh yeah. Wait, it's the opposite. Sorry. Most murders are calculated already. My bad.
Yeah, or acts of passion.
Passion, so they wouldn't happen
again. That would be hard to do, right?
But there are lots of random murders happening all the time recently. So
yes.
Not most, but it actually happens pretty often.
First off, even if you could get away with a random murder, you couldn't. I mean, even if you could execute a random murder,
because you're just trying to change the subject again. Because I didn't say anything about somebody getting away with it. It's like the evil is done when that person's murdered, unless you disagree because you want to murder Richie Rich.
Like a school shooting.
That's what I'm saying.
They know who it is. It happens way too often.
That one in New York, that person said he just went to a store and said there's too many black people and started shooting. Yeah.
What? Yeah, but imagine.
I'm just kind of done with this conversation. It's boring.
Bye.
Bye, Skeeter. You're boring. Doesn't really even matter if we decide that the root of all evil is something else other than what it is. It's just
the root of all evil is privacy. So if you eliminate privacy, then you eliminate evil. But that's clearly not the case.
Yep.
Because again, my example of cops and military, right? They kill and rape and murder with impunity already. And there's no privacy. They just get away with it.
Yep.
And if you want, if there's if you're worried about repercussions, right? Like school shooters, the random attacks, during COVID when people in New York were just we're just going to bash people who are Asian.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they happen to be Asian.
Yeah.
Right? Like the privacy is not going to prevent that, or lack of privacy is not going to prevent that.
Yeah.
They're just it's random, man.
There's like cameras everywhere in New York.
That's one of libertarians, anarchists, whatever. We get accused of like wanting like a utopian society where none of this bad stuff happens. It's like, no, we want the voluntarism. We want people to obey the non-aggression principle, but that doesn't mean that those random acts of violence aren't going to occur. There just has to be ways to prevent it or, adjudicate after the fact.
And also just there shouldn't be a framework for people to opt into doing bad stuff and not get with impunity.
Right. You wouldn't have that.
Honestly, I believe that there would still be bad things happening, but it would naturally happen less often.
Yep.
And that there wouldn't be this unnatural system where people have an incentive to do bad things.
Right. Once you form a government based on those coercive tenets, right, you guarantee that there's going to be some violence and coercion in the system.
Well, we hung up on Skeeter, but 603-283-6160 is the phone number if you'd like to bring up whatever's on your mind. Tell us we're wrong about what we're saying, or you could totally change the subject. It's up to you because it's Free Talk Live, but more from this story about this company in New Jersey that the government is just working with to steal land from people whose parents came here from Cuba and escaped communism, and they just wanted to create a business and make better lives for themselves. Well, now communist New Jersey is going to take their business's land.
I'm going to say fascist New Jersey.
Yeah.
Because they're giving it to private industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're working together.
Gateway, a joint project between the city's redevelopment agency and Denver-based developer Viridian Partners, was the latest stage in this massive government-led reinvention of Perth Amboy. Viridian Partners had promised to invest $110 million in cleaning up the 44-acre Gateway site that would eventually become a massive warehouse and parkland. But first, some old buildings on the edge of the site had to be torn down. This key entrance to our city, once tarnished by decay, is now the focal point of our redevelopment efforts.
And that's like every big city. There's even like a South Park joke about this, how they take Kenny's rundown house because he's poor.
Yep.
And they turned it into like downtown South Park, and it means downtown South Park, and they turn the crappy part and make it like trendy, and they still keep Kenny's house, and it's like, oh, over by the house, and it's like
the historic district.
Yeah, the historic district. It's like all big cities are doing this. It's just gentrification, and they're trying to make it cool, and it's like, oh, it's so cool that there's like this nice pizza shop, and then right next door is like the projects, and the next block is crackheads. Oh, so cool. But yeah, every big city is doing that now.
Now, ironically, right, if they wanted to buy the land and develop it and offer fair price to the previous owner, or at least make them an offer, right, they should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're doing this project, and it's always like the last mile problem, right? The last holdout's going to get the biggest payout because you can't finish it unless you pay them off huge. So like, what do you do about that? And Disney solved that problem years ago.
You just try to not let them all know what you're doing.
That's what Disney did.
Oh.
Like in order to build like Disney World, I don't have all the facts off the top of my head, but in order to build Disney World, Disney set up like a dozen shell corporations and bought up all the land that they needed under like the guise of all these shell corporations.
Whoa.
And then built Disney World on it, because they knew that if there was one company buying up all the land, someone would hold out. And in order to avoid that, they created mini corporations to get the land.
That's so interesting. I wonder, because I've been hearing that like Elon Musk wants to create a little town, and so does Jeff Bezos. I wonder if they're going to take that.
They'd be smart to keep their mouth shut until they're ready to do it. Like announcing it up front is a bad thing to do unless they're willing to pay. Or, because it's Elon Musk and he's in bed with the president, right? He'll just eminent domain whatever he needs to get that last mile problem taken care of.
Yeah, apparently the Elon Musk one is going to be like people living on it on 69th and 420th Streets and stuff like that. I don't really know, but people are going to be living on it.
It's not unheard of, right? Like there are old country songs about like the company store, right? You work for the company, you live nearby, you go to work, you commute, and you buy everything internally. Like it's not a new phenomenon to do this. He's just doing it on a grander scale. The point I was driving at earlier, though, was, it'd be okay if, in fairness, to be like, hey, we want to offer you this money because we want the land, right? And you can say yes or no, But when the Palisades fires in California happened, right, and the fires in Maui happened, the government prevented people from selling the land to developers, right? They went the other way. They said, like, you're not allowed to sell because we don't want these developers to take advantage of you, by lowballing you for the land.
Wow.
Well, the land isn't worth what it was a week ago when there was a house and all this other stuff. It is significantly devalued, and now's a good time to buy.
Wow.
So they could easily buy it up cheap and develop there, right? And the government is preventing them from doing so. So on one hand, you have the government preventing companies from paying fair market value to people who may want to voluntarily sell because of the diminished value, right? And on the other hand, you have them taking land from people because they don't want to sell in New Jersey.
The ultimate example of the government thinks that they're smarter than you and should be able to run your life for you, that they'll tell you, no, you're not allowed to sell your own property right now because we're thinking it won't be a good deal for you.
Right.
That's insane. 603-283-6160. Corruption, corrupted power hungriness is probably more likely the root of all evil. What do you think? Call 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait now. Wait a minute. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this?